You know when you tap your card to pay for coffee, or book a flight, or just stream a movie? Have you ever stopped to think about what's happening behind the scenes? There's this massive, invisible world humming along, a world built on data. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the people who keep that entire world running smoothly. And this is where it all happens. Every single click, every photo you upload, all of it lives inside a database, humming away on servers just like these. The scale is it's honestly mind-boggling. And making sure all that information stays organized, fast, and secure, well, that's one of the most important jobs in the entire tech industry. So here's our plan for today. We'll start with why data is so critical. Then we'll get into a great analogy, the architect versus the mechanic. We'll look at what a DBA does all day, how you can master the craft at a place like SQL School, and then we'll ask the big question, could this be the career for you? All right, to really wrap your head around what a database administrator or a DBA actually does, let's use a simple analogy. Think about a high-performance car. You've got two key people involved, the one who designs it and the one who keeps it running like a dream. This breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you have SQL developers. Think of them as the car designers, the engineers. They draw up the blueprints for the database, they build its structure, and they write the code to make it all work. But what happens once that car is actually built and on the road? Well, that's where the SQL DBA, the car mechanic, steps in. Their job isn't to design it, it's to make sure it runs perfectly every single day. Yeah, the DBA is all about the health and performance of that engine. They're the ones doing the tune-ups, running diagnostics, fixing things when they break, and even upgrading parts to make sure that database is always performing at its absolute best. So now that you've got that car analogy in your head, here's the more official definition. A SQL database administrator is the professional responsible for what I like to call the trifecta of database health. Its performance, its integrity, which just means making sure the data is accurate, and of course, its security. Okay, so we know what a DBA is, but what do they really do all day? Let's dive into their daily mission. You know, looking at this list, you can tell a DBA's day is never, ever boring. It's this constant mix of being proactive and reactive. One minute you're doing routine maintenance, the next you're troubleshooting a sudden slowdown. You're planning for big things like cloud migrations while also creating disaster recovery plans just in case the worst happens. Let's get a little more specific. High availability and monitoring, that means making sure the database is always online. I mean, think about it. For a hospital or an airline, downtime just isn't an option. Then you've got data repairs and upgrades, which is pretty self-explanatory. And with so many companies moving to the cloud, managing those migrations and disaster recovery has become a massive, massive part of the job. This really sums it up perfectly. The DBA is involved in the entire life cycle of the database. From the moment it's installed, they're responsible for everything: backups, recovery, performance tuning, security, even complex setups to guarantee that high availability we talked about. It's a huge, vital role from start to finish. Okay, that is a lot of responsibility, which brings up a really important question. How does anyone learn to do all of that? Well, that's where really good, practical training comes into play. And this is how it happens. Programs like the ones at SQL School are specifically designed to turn people who are interested in tech into actual, job-ready professionals. The secret sauce isn't just learning theory from a book. It's about getting your hands dirty in an environment that feels just like the real world. And their whole approach really boils down to this one number, 100%. We're talking 100% practical, hands-on training. The idea is simple. You don't just read about databases, you actually build them, manage them, break them, and fix them right from day one. And this isn't some new idea they're just trying out. This practical, hands-on approach has been tested and refined for over 20 years. That's 2 decades of figuring out the best way to prepare people for the challenges they're actually going to face on the job. So here's how that process works. You start with the basics, step by step. Then you immediately apply what you've learned to real-time scenarios, the kind of problems that pop up in an actual job. From there, you move on to working on complete projects, and that's how you build those real practical skills that companies are looking for. All right, we've talked about what a DBA does and how you can get trained, so that brings us to the most important question of all. Could this be the right career for you? I mean, do you like solving puzzles? Are you a pretty methodical person? Do you like the idea of being the person who protects really important information? What's so great about this field is how accessible it is. You don't have to have some perfect background. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out and want to get into tech or if you're coming back to work after a break. Even if you're already in IT and want to specialize, or you're coming from a totally different field, this path is wide open. So if you were nodding along to those questions, if this sounds like something you'd be good at, then a structured, practical training program is exactly the starting line you need for a journey into a really dynamic and in-demand career. I'll leave you with this quote from Andrew McAfee. The world is one big data problem. As our world gets more and more digital, the need for people who can solve that problem, the DBAs, is only going to get bigger. The only question left is, will you be one of them?